How's it going, everybody? My name is Zach Splate, and I did my presentation on the access to clean water crisis. Now, in this presentation, I did the ease of access. I didn't really go into the economics, although I will touch on it slightly later in this presentation. So let's just jump right into it. The introduction. The clean water crisis is increasingly getting worse over the years, and I found this quote from Clean Water, an Introduction to Water Quality and Water Pollution Control. And they said, among the most significant concerns facing the planet today are the issues associated with water. The quantity and quality of this resource are of paramount of importance. And I also found another quote from Talking Dirty, the Politics of Clean Water and Sanitation. And it said, even without catastrophic diseases, disasters, the lack of access to clean water and basic sanitation presents a silent crisis affecting more than a third of the world's population. And I would just like to go back and really emphasize that a third of the world's population, that definitely needs to come down. That is just way too high. And then some background. I'd like to talk about a common misconception with water. Only a fraction of the water that we use is fresh water. Most of the water in the world is actually salt water in the oceans that we really don't have access to. And I'd like to touch on that. And I found a quote from the Global Minute Water and Health, Walking for Water and Water Wars. And they said, fresh water is a finite, valuable resource that is essential for sustenance of life, the environment, and development. And that just, that really hit home. And then pollution. Pollution is another issue that causes the access to clean water. Although there may be water that can be accessed, it may not be drinkable because it may be polluted. And so I found this quote from Environmental Health in China, Progress to Clean Air and Safe Water. And they said, half of China's water resources are considered too polluted for human use. And that's just a staggering number that definitely needs to come down. Some more background. Common diseases. I found this quote from Talking Dirty, the Politics of Clean Water and Sanitation. And they said, there are several categories of water-related diseases, including diarrheal disease, skin and eye infections, and the neglected tropical diseases. And all that can be due to lack of hygiene, poor drinking water, poor living conditions. All those things, all those factors can add up to having diseases in the water. But you also have to think about, insects and animals that, go in the water, drink from the water. All those things can also affect the drinking water. Now, although there's been a lot of issues, there also has been some improvements. For example, China has made some improvements. Here's a quote from the Environmental Health in China, Progress Towards Clean Air and Safe Water. They said, access to pipe water increased from 30% of the population in 1985 to 77% in 2007. And despite a massive increase in urban population, access for urban residents reached nearly 94% in 2007. And that just goes to show that some places have taken notice and are actually improving. Now, Africa has also improved. Now, they've implemented the Africa Water Vision for 2025, and that was put together to sustain positive growth in the region's economic departments and social well-being, and that deals with natural and human factors. So, for example, it talks about climate change, water scarcity, pollution, and unsustainable finances. Now, there are some solutions, and I found all my solutions from how can we provide water for developing countries. And they came up with things like water extracting towers, filters, desalination, self-filling water bottles, and a fan that pulls water from the air. Now, here is a figure of a water filtration process. And it just goes to show that it's not as easy as it sounds. You can't just filter out everything just with a common filter. A lot of the time you need more advanced stuff, and that will cost money. Touching on the economics, that it's not as cheap as people think. You really do have to sink some money into it to do it right and proper. And a lot of these places that need it don't have that type of money. So some concluding thoughts. There are a lot of issues, ranging from diseases, the ease of access. All that stuff is an issue and will continue to be an issue. But there are some solutions, like I just touched on. The water extracting towers, filters, stuff like that. There are solutions that can be, taken. And I found this quote from Water Scarcity Challenging the Future. And they said, "Water is life because planets, animals, human beings, and other living organisms cannot live without water." And that is very true, and it really could not have been said better. And here are the references for my presentation.